We often hear that to be well, we need to have willpower, or be good people. At LIPS, we start from a different and far more useful premise. Well-being is not a reward for moral virtue or some supposed willpower, but the result of applying knowledge about how the world works to our lives. In fact, there is a very interesting idea that suggests that human conflict is not between good and evil, but between knowledge and ignorance. To move forward, we need to define a couple of concepts. Well-being, the state of optimal functioning of an organism. Ignorance, the absence of the information necessary for a system, you, to reach that optimal functioning. Developing the idea of knowledge as the engine of well-being requires starting with an uncomfortable truth. Material resources help, but they explain far less than we usually believe. In a world marked by constant challenges, economic uncertainty, chronic stress, overstimulation, sedentary lifestyles, human well-being depends much more on how we interpret and manage reality than on how many things we own. Knowledge is the tool that makes that management possible. Without it, even abundance becomes chaotic. With it, even scarcity can be transformed into fertile ground. A simple analogy makes this clear. Imagine two people with the same car, in the same desert. One has a detailed map and understands how the vehicle works. The other does not. The car is the material resource. The map and mechanical knowledge are the difference between reaching the destination or being stranded under the sun. Well-being works the same way. It's not so much what you have, but whether you know what to do with it. Science supports this idea without romanticism. Studies on subjective well-being, such as those derived from the World Happiness Report, show that beyond a certain income threshold, additional money has a diminishing impact on life satisfaction. By contrast, variables such as education, health literacy, and the ability to make informed decisions correlate far more consistently with sustained well-being. Not because they make life easy, but because they help reduce repeated mistakes. Research in behavioral psychology indicates that a large portion of today's health problems, obesity, type 2 diabetes, anxiety, are not due to a lack of resources, but to systematic poor decisions in poorly understood environments. Knowledge does not eliminate suffering, but it does prevent unnecessary suffering. There is one area where we need to be brutally honest. Willpower is overrated. Without a solid conceptual framework, willpower gets exhausted, scattered, or turned against oneself. Consider, for example, smoking cessation methods based on cognitive restructuring, such as the famous approach by Alan Carr. People who had spent years without willpower managed to quit in a single intense session. It's not that their inner strength suddenly grew. It's that they received the right information, presented in such a way that their brains perceived the problem differently. By eliminating internal conflict, effort disappears. Well-integrated knowledge reshapes the structure of your decisions. Willpower alone is a scarce and unreliable resource. In fact, some psychologists argue that there is really no such thing as willpower. Knowledge redesigns the terrain. It changes the odds. It allows limitations to be transformed into realistic opportunities and suffering into structured learning, not resignation. At LIPS, this idea is central for a simple reason. Life improves when we better understand what we are, the environment we live in, and the laws, biological, psychological, and social, that govern our surroundings and our behavior. Knowledge is not an intellectual luxury. It is a modern survival tool and the most reliable engine of human well-being. By replacing moralism with scientific curiosity, we stop being judges of our lives and become their engineers. Improving your life is in your hands, because knowledge is within your reach.